about gender inequality in sports. So, first question. Have you ever had an experience where you've encountered discrepancies during coaching due to your gender?
Yeah, I can't. I don't think so, no.
Do you know of anyone, like any other male or female coach that has not been given a job or has been told that they can't coach because they're female or male?
Well, I know of basically a coaching company who wanted a receptionist to not coach, but they made it possibly all they wanted was a woman. They didn't want a male. So I guess they wanted every coach was male and all the receptionists were female. So I guess they made it clear that they just wanted male to coach.
So they don't allow any females to coach?
Well, yeah, they only would take that asking for females for receptionists.
I haven't had any incidents where that's occurred to me.
Okay, so how would you improve gender inequality in coaching?
I guess obviously I keep open to both genders, and maybe make it possible where within a coaching organisation is a good ratio of both female and male coaches, so that no questions can arise if they're sexist at all.
I think you just got to sort of expose the sport more to women, like just through media, I guess. Like football's like mainly dominated by men. All the coaching courses, it's all in it with like loads of boys. There's not enough females on it. So maybe just open it up to them more, offer it to them first, and then.
Do you think there's any reason in particular that there aren't many females in the coaching courses?
I think they might feel intimidated going on the course, maybe, and the sport itself.
I reckon intimidation is probably a big factor. And maybe just the mass of males that come to the coaching, they probably just feel that it'll be like, well, when I did my level 1, I was the youngest by like 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I felt a bit intimidated myself, so I can imagine how a woman would feel if she was the only woman and it was all men.
In saying that, when I did my level 1, it was actually a female coach who was delivering the session, and she used to play for England like a professional club, and like the things she used to tell us, like how she used to treat their players, like she was stricter than most males, so like all their players had to wear black trainers, and she wouldn't let their girlfriends turn up to the games, and like all these little things. I was like, that's a bit strange, like coming from women, like she's so strict.
Do you think there's a reason why she had to be that strict? Do you think if she wasn't that strict, she'd be taken seriously, or they're just basically like?
I think that could be a factor, that maybe it is a woman, and she might feel that if she's too soft, they might take a piss. But I don't know. I think it's maybe the age which she was teaching as well. So like, I think it was like mid-teens, so like 14 to 16-year-olds. She was like the academy coach. And I think she was just getting across different methods of implementing like you being in charge. So maybe for her that one worked best. But for everyone else it's probably different.
What barriers do you female coaches face at amateur, regional, and league level? What's saying about Paul?
Are we talking about gender still?
Yeah.
I think at football, at the amateur level, there's not a lot of, you don't hear of a lot of football, women footballs in the sort of parks and the fields. But if you go there, it's all mainly filled up by men.
So the only like female roles we hear about is like physios, stuff like that. You don't really hear about assistant coaches being female. So I guess they don't really face I mean, I guess they do. It's harder for them, which is obvious, but I think the opportunity is there for them to, if they wish to. But I don't think you get the amount of women going up for the jobs as females. I think if they did, they got almost just as much chance to get them as a male if they got the same qualifications and they want as much. I don't think you get the amount of women going for jobs as males.
Do you think there's a specific reason why these females don't go for the same roles?
I think they probably feel like intimidated. They feel that they probably don't stand a chance, which is, as it's understandable, it's completely normal in today's society. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I think they have just as much of a chance, because it comes down to ability and how they coach. And the women can coach just as well as I was coaching before. And if she was just as good as any male coach.
There's no differences.
So if, for example, off the question, but if a male and a female would go for the same job vacancy, do you think the male will get it or the female? If they both got the same level of coaching?
At first glance, I think maybe, just because the traits that a male has are sometimes beneficial to coach. However, I think that a woman, if they, they do a day's coaching and they coach the children or whatever, you can then see how they apply. I think there's so much of a chance.
I think when it comes to women's coaching, depending on their playing experience, that might push them to get the qualification. Because if you've got an amateur football woman player, I don't think she'll sort of get the qualification. Or if you've had an ex-professional, she's more likely to push to get a qualification. And I think it will just start from their role models maybe. If you go to a men's club, there's not going to be a lot of women coaches. Whereas if you go to a women's club, there are probably a lot of male coaches as well. So
do you think you need to be able to play the sport to be good at coaching?
Not necessarily, but in terms of women's getting a chance to get a qualification, if you go to a college or school, I don't think a lot of them put their hand up to get the qualification because they maybe have the desire to compete in that sport.
So, just touching on it as well, so do you think female coaches are underrepresented in sport? I think that was right. But why do you think that's
I think when I used to live in America, and basically all the male schools were coached by male schools, all the women's schools were coached by women. And so I think that it's almost because obviously football and basketball is obviously bigger in the male side of things, and so you're going to get more chances of male coaches, whereas you've got women's sports like volleyball or hockey, it's bigger in the women's side, so I think you've got more chances of women coaching there. So I think that each their own, almost you kind of coach in their own sort of sector. Almost. But I think, exactly. I think that's what is going on nowadays. But if a woman wants to football, I think they've got just as much chance if they go about the same way as a male. But they obviously have more restrictions because of, like I said, at first glance, you probably think a male being more strong and more powerful. I think in the same sort of scenario, if you put them side by side and they do the same job, I think they can do just the same.
I think you've got to sort of push from maybe the women's aspect side of it, just to mix maybe within the male sport, just so it sort of balances things out. Because you've got males coaching women's leagues and teams, so it's normal, but it's like seeing the other way. It's not seen the same way around, to be honest.
in a sense, it's a bit like they're taking the jobs as well, because obviously
so
it's hard enough for the girls to get to actually, I get how are female coaches incorporated into your national government structure, and how often do they neglect it?
Well, in my coaching course, I was probably one of a few that had a women coach to come in and deliver the qualification. Probably maybe the other ones were delivered by
how are females incorporated into a national government body structure? So is there special pathways or special structures that are dedicated to women and women?
The coaches, I've had a couple of coaches who have taught from the FA, and they've all been previous players, or they've coached at a high level, and they just do this it's basically FA England, they come down and do that. And so I've had that, so maybe it's harder for women to get ahead in sport because football is very male oriented, so maybe it's hard for them to get into.
I think it's hard,
so maybe they make women's football much, they try and they said to me to the media, try and like get them all out there, and also to work their way to the FA.
I think in terms of coaching, you could say they're involved, but higher up the scale, like in charge-wise, that chairman-wise, it's all sort of male-dominated. The higher up you go, so maybe if they're sort of incorporated there, then it would lead to follow from the bottom up. So if you change it from the top, then it could tell you
what are your experience of female coaches in your sport?
Apart from that one instance, that's the only time. There's not been any other. Even the people I work with, they're all male, so that's the only instance, I guess.
When I used to like any sport, like when I used to run, I was like my personal coach was actually she used to run at a high level, and so she coached me. She was like my personal coach. So I was coached by a women's football coach. So I've had like both, and like they said, they both been like just as good as any male, if not better, if not better. I mean, like sometimes I found it quite easy to relate to a male coach. Sometimes, so I mean that was like quite helpful. Just like certain scenarios, I think, to a male coach, but there's no situations where I've been like, oh, I feel like this from a male.
Do you think for females to be a good coach, do they have to have performed or taken part in sport for many years before?
I don't think so. I think any coach, depending on the level, any coach needs to have like, so well, obviously that starts somewhere. So they start low, obviously working way up. I think that any coach can do a good job depending on what it says. So a woman's coach, she like had experience, she was much better. So I think that's something like a sex talk.
You just got to change like the norms in which they participate in sport, so just making it normal for them to participate in football rather than sort of discriminating to sort of volleyball.
What about participation in coaching? Do you find that there's females that come to your session to participate and then
I got quite a few where I coach, and they're just as good as they all get along fine. Obviously there's more like more boys than girls. There's no, you can't replace them apart at all. They're just as good.
Both coach at sort of a young age group, so there's not like a distinct difference, I'd say.
Yeah.
But maybe like higher up you go, there might be maybe.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between a male coach and a female coach?
Ability-wise,
Anything like what they look like, how they coach, their ability, their previous experience, how they have to like, if they have to prove themselves or not.
The thing is with coaching, everyone's got their own take on things, so it could all be similar in a way, but then it could be distinct to how they prefer. So if a woman was to coach, it might be different to you, but it might be similar to another male coach. So it all depends on the person and how they prefer to coach.
I mean, like, if I was coaching, when I was coaching a woman, I've almost like, you've had to like, almost not respect them all, but to their authority, I think, is more than the male coach I've had, because it's difficult because like they've obviously fought hard to get where they are, whereas male, so you almost respect them more almost, and then obviously because it's a woman, you also have to respect them more as a man. So I think that there's that difference almost. I don't think there's any ability difference at all. I think skill-wise, women.
I think coach and athlete-wise, the athlete might be sort of impressed by the female coach. I wasn't expecting this sort of high level.
Do you think, for example, when a female, if you've ever had a female coach or if you've ever seen a female coach, do you think if they ask you to do something, they have to give you all the reasoning behind, whereas the male coach can just say, give me whatever drill, and then the athlete should go and do it?
I think that depends on the background of the coach. I think that any coach, dependent on the level of the children, has to go into depth with what they're doing. Whereas I think that, say, the background of the woman, if a woman can generally be more loving and caring like say they, I don't know, for example, they've got children or something, and they can be more loving and caring towards the children, and so they'll be more, so they're going to more depth, they'll be more caring for the children, which I think can be quite negative sometimes. If you're too caring and too soft with the children, then you haven't got much power.
Can't enforce what you're
exactly, can't
trying to
enforce
get
as much.
across.
So I think there's a good medium needed, I guess, between it.
There's got to be sort of a balance, which I think there is in coaching, but you can't distinguish like that between for that person and that for that person. It all sort of varies.
So hypothetically speaking, as objective as your views may be, if you were to be a female coach, what would hinder your chances of participating in NGB of your sport?
The only reason that would just be like intimidation, like just the thought that I haven't got as much chance as a man. The only thing that would help with that.
Just the initial phase. I think that's the hardest part to get.
But then I'd also embrace that. I'd also think I'm one of I'm a woman to 20 males. I'm unique. I can do something which they can't. I can do something which they can't. So I like to accept and embrace it.
Sorry, I got stuck in the yawn. Do you think, in coaching courses, do you think there should be female-only coaching courses, or do you agree with one coaching course?
No, one coach.
Yeah, there has to be one. I mean, there's nothing different between a female and a male coach, so there shouldn't be that association between different coaching.
Because then there's just some great differences for themselves. That's not going to help create things fair. It's just going to be great differences, and that will probably lead to just women coaching women.
Because at the end of it, it's all the same sport, so there's no point.
Do you think female coaches are looked down on by those male coaches, even if they're at the same level?
I think if you don't,
them more inferior?
Yeah, obviously, you don't know them. You don't know them personally. I think that you probably whether subconsciously look down upon them.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think it's obviously stupid, but I think you would just without knowing them, you think that they are as talented as you, have their experience or whatever. But it's incredibly wrong.
Is that the end of it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.